This was gigantic. This is the first time a drag queen has ever been put on the cover of...
A drag queen? I am the queen of drag.
I'm her. She. Take a pic, it's me.
What is up, Voodoo Tribe? It's your girl Naja, aka the Voodoo Child, and I am back with another celebrity book review. And as y'all can tell by this bold look I got going on right now, whoever we're doing this review about is a bold person, and we are going to be reading Rupaul's The House of Hidden Meanings. And honestly, I didn't understand the title until I got to the end of the book, so I'm gonna wait to explain what's going on with that. I did think it was very interesting that he chose to go with his more masculine look on the book cover, but I digress. We're gonna be giving this look because I think it's a nice mixture of his current glam look and his former gender look. So I just wanted to put those two together, and this is what we got. Yes, girl, this wig is wigging. Shout out to all my actual drag queens out there, because what the fuck. This was a lot. I'm not gonna say it was as shocking as I thought it was gonna be, but some things did shock me. I'm not gonna hold y'all. Some things did shock me. So please give a thumbs up before we get into it.
Oh, Scotty, Rue, don't do that. Stop wasting them film on bull.
So first, we're going to be talking about Rue's childhood, okay? Rue was born in San Diego, but has roots in Louisiana.
My parents moved from Louisiana in the last of the Great Migration to San Diego. And my father worked in the aircraft industry. He was an electrician, I think at McDonnell Douglas, the aircraft manufacturers, and they had a plant in San Diego, and he worked there. And she was, before they married, she was a secretary, but when they got married, of course, she stayed home.
His family is of Creole descent. Louisiana Creole is basically a mixture of different French, Spanish, white, black, all in the Louisiana area. And he was named after the roux. You know, when you make a roux in a pot, when you cook some gumbo or something, that's what he was named after, Rupaul. And his mother said that a psychic actually told her that she was going to have a child that was going to be famous and that it was going to be Rue. So she named him Rupaul. Like, his actual name is Rupaul because she knew that her baby was going to be a star, okay? When Rue was around 7, his parents did divorce. He described his parents as having a very abusive relationship. His mom being physically abusive, his dad being very emotionally absent, cheating, stuff like that. Rupaul does have siblings, older siblings. I think he is a middle sibling, but he has sisters who are very protective of him when these fights were going on. He said his mom was clocking his daddy with lamps. Like, he said his mom was ruthless. Like,
You look crazy.
You just aggravated. That's why you're saying that.
So I got all the pictures.
You got all the picture of what?
From the,
Your childhood pictures?
Mm-hmm.
And you put it on there?
Mm-hmm.
You got to be ignorant. You know that?
I am.
his mom was a white passing black woman. I think her mother was biracial, if I'm not mistaken, but she was very, Rupaul described her as very, like, I'll describe it as prickly. From what he was describing, because y'all gotta remember, Ru is a boomer, like, he's old. They don't really talk about mental health. He doesn't really talk about mental health like that in the book until the last chapter. What he was describing seemed like depression. She seemed very depressed and like she would lash out at people about the circumstances that she was in.
Scotty, Ru, don't do that. Stop wasting them film on bullshit. What are you doing, motherfucker? You know Ru taking pictures of us doing this? That dumb fucker.
You didn't know that?
Don't do that, Scotty.
Okay, Mama, call me a pussy mouth motherfucker.
No.
Ru said his father's family never liked her, and they would always go out their way to like let her know that they don't fuck with her. And so she's just always been on offense, constantly trying to defend her blackness, constantly trying to defend her household. But regardless of all of that, she always made sure all of her kids knew, like, you can reach your dreams, you can do what you want to do, you can be who you want to be better than me. one thing she said to Rue that stuck with him was, you remember too much, that's gonna fuck with you later in life. And that just stuck with him, because when his dad left, he caught himself constantly waiting on the front porch for his dad to come and pick him up, and his dad would never pick him up. He would constantly talk about that memory through his childhood of when his dad first left and him waiting on the stoop to get picked up. And his mom is like, you need to let that go. You need to let it go. So that's the type of person that his mom is. His mom is was very like, don't be in your emotions. It really serves no point. If you must be seen and heard, entertain. Because she was so depressed, she would use the children to self-soothe. So one of the sisters was very outgoing, so she would always come and like crack a joke for the mom. The other sister was more homely and knitting. She would knit a blanket for the mom. Rue would bust out into a dance in the living room to make his mom happy.
Don't do that. Don't do that, Scott. Further. In the middle. In the middle. Stay, girl, up. Get away, Scott. Rule fucker. Got it. Don't do that. Don't do that.
All right, all right.
So everything was very people pleaser, people pleaser, people pleaser, with Rue being the only boy. It was just, that was his childhood, was wanting attention. He just really wanted attention, because the person who was supposed to be giving him attention in his eyes was completely out of here, was gone. Like, that was, his dad meant a lot to him. Even though the very short time he was there, he wasn't really a positive input. You get what I'm saying? The dad did remarry, start over, do his own thing, and just like never fucked with Rue throughout his life. And not to jump the gun, but I did some research and found out that Rue actually helped get his dad like financially together later in life. And I'm like, I don't know. I understand that Rue probably did it for like forgiveness, to show forgiveness and everything, but honestly, I would have let Pop sit somewhere, because what happened to your other family? What happened to, like, you just had me sitting on them damn steps? No, you know what? Now you're sitting on the steps. I don't know. I'm still team traumatize your parents. Maybe I'll outgrow that when I'm, later on in adulthood. But it's like, you literally had me waiting on you that whole time. I don't know. So Rue was one of those kids who was never in the closet, if you catch my drift. Kids always knew he was a little bit feminine. He was a little bit more different, a little more high-pitched. And then it also didn't help, again, because he's older. He was born in 1960. So you're growing up. People are going to make comments about your skin tone, how you got freckles, how your mama look white, and they calling you all types of sissies and stuff like that. So that was his school era, but he admits nobody ever like followed him and beat him up for being gay. And he says he considers himself blessed throughout the book in that factor. Like, he's like, throughout his life, he feels like something or someone or some type of force has protected him from certain things that should have happened. And I know a lot of us out there can relate. Like, there's no way that I survived that type shit. Like, and that was one of the things where he's like, he feels very fortunate and blessed that was not his experience as a gay youth, right? Or a queer youth. So just like all other little kids, when you come of age as a child, you become a preteen and everything, you start to form crushes. Kids, the little boys and little girls don't have cooties no more out of nowhere, and you want to do what normal kids do. But again, because he is a queer child, he couldn't express himself, and he didn't really understand like what that was gonna look like for him. However, just how kids do, he did end up getting a little crush on this guy he named Lamar. Now, Lamar, I went to school with a few Lamars, and I know y'all have too, where it's like, bro, you may not have gay mannerisms, but the way you interact with this gay queer person at our school is very much courting like. Does that make sense? Like, I've seen plenty of dudes coming of age where they were very touchy-feely on some like poking, like ha 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 in class, or like tickling, and like the gay boy being like, stop. Like, yeah, I seen it, so I know exactly what type of guy he's talking about. This is Lamar, and he just said Lamar would give him butterflies. He said it felt electric because it was like he knew it could not go farther than it was, type of thing. Like, even as a kid, he knew, like, this is pretty much as good as it's gonna get.
Obviously, you know, it's a vacation place, it's a military place, but it is very conservative Republican, and when I was growing up, it was super, super white, you know. So I used to go up to the thrifty drugstore and read magazines, interview magazines about New York and Studio 54 and all that stuff, and I think I need to get there quick, fast, and in a hurry. And so I knew that I had to leave San Diego to find my tribe.
So, you know, him and Lamar are friends for some time, actually. But in this phase of the book, I remember he said he was outside one day, because he used to play outside by himself because he wanted to go certain places the other neighborhood kids didn't feel comfortable going because of racial pressures at the time. There was a lot of white people at the beach. It was no longer segregation, just like certain type of pressures were still there. So, you know, the kids in the hood did not want to go to the beach with the white folks, but Rue wanted to go and experience the beach. And he came back from the beach one day on the bus, and they were all looking at him riding the city bus like, he really went there. So that was another time where he was like, damn, I didn't get bullied, but I just know I'm different. So one day he was coming home and he saw Lamar making out with a little girl in the car, in a vehicle. And this back then, they got 13-year-olds driving vehicles for whatever fucking reason. He moves on and tries to, like, you know, repress his little feelings for Lamar, even though Lamar got a girlfriend. Mind you, this is like some middle school shit. Rue being real as fuck for this. This is some middle school shit. Then over time, I don't know how this ended up happening. Lamar broke up with that girl and then started dating one of Rue's sisters. Because remember, he got an older sister and a younger sister. So he started dating Rue's sister, and that just hurt his little heart. And he was just saying a lot of sad things, and it made me feel so bad. Like, he just kept calling himself, like, other, like, it just made me feel so bad. It just made me feel so bad for him. Those are the little things that you never really think about being a cisgender, heteronormative person, you know, like, those are the little innocent experiences that you have coming of age. But as soon as it's same sex, now this is just like some perverted, like, you know, so I don't know, I just felt so bad for Rue. But Lamar's a fuckboy, because out of all people, his sister, like, I get it, you like him and you wish that you could be with him, but my sister, bitch. Rue does talk about his sexuality in depth in this book, and it's very interesting, sad interesting. Like, I felt bad for him, how because he felt so other, his urges, like, weren't there. Like, he did not have sexual urges the way that the normal teenager describes having, because they've never done it before. So there's tons to wonder about. It's tons to get excited about. He said he never had that. Like, he was scared to have certain feelings, to the point, you know, how some kids think that their parents can hear their thoughts, and then they get to a certain age, they're like, wait a minute, and they do a test, and then their parents don't turn their head. Yeah, it was like that type of thing. It's like he couldn't. Yeah, it was the 70s. He could have went out as a summer, you know, people all types of freaked out, doing all types of drugs. He could have easily hooked up with somebody, but he didn't. Like, he just was like, nah, I don't know about any of this.
Oh, yay, this is one of my favorite songs.
Now let's get into the Hotlanta years, okay? This is insane to me, but again, I keep remembering it's a different time. Why would you kick your 15-year-old out of the house? Like, I'm sorry. I'm not even kicking my 18-year-old out the house. Why would you kick a 15-year-old out into the freaking world?
What was school like?
I wasn't very good in school. I didn't go to school. I was in the quad smoking cigarettes or, you know, smoking other things. And I just didn't like school. I didn't like it. I didn't like hierarchy, the people. I did love the music theater you know, and I did go to that class, but I flunked the 10th grade,
Oh,
and then
man.
I dropped out in the 11th grade.
Wow.
Like kids do, because you know, you get the realities of the world. The world fucking sucks. Love hurts. All that jazz. And Rue turned to the jazz cabbage. He started getting lit. You know, sneaking out after school. Now he's sneaking to the beach to smoke. Like now he's drinking a little something here and there. And he was rebelling because, you know, you see in your sister this man you want to be with. They eventually broke up, but it's still, at the point they broke up, it was just too much. Like he had been rebelling a little too much. Around that time, this is a big trigger warning. Around that time that he got kicked out of his mom's house, he did see this man. This is a grown man. Okay, and I want to say this was a teacher or something. No, that's what it was. It was like a gay counselor. Like it was like a program, because he realized, like, I don't have any community. Like I know I'm gay, I think, but I don't really know what's going on, you know. So around that time, he's confiding in this counselor who is also gay, and like, you know, talking about how they came out later in life. Mind you, Rue is a teenager. Rue is a teenager. And this is a grown-ass man. And this grown-ass man told Rue straight up, we're going to wait until you're 18, and then we're going to do this. Sir, you're his, like, basically therapist. And he's a kid. And you over here talking about we're going to do this when you're of age. And if I'm not mistaken, I feel like they already did, like, little things here and there, you know, like kissing, stuff like that. So you're going to jail. Like, so Rue didn't do nothing with him, but I'm just letting y'all know, like, he was starting to spiral. So his mom was just basically like, look, I had enough of this shit. You coming in and out of the house all hours of the night, trying to turn up and shit in the streets, smoking your jazz cabbage and stuff. You're not going to school. You gotta go.
Yeah, I was 15. I was not doing well in school, and my sister Renetta said, "Hey, we're moving to Atlanta," which is at that time was experiencing another boom. So Atlanta has had several booms. Yes, several many booms. And this was in '76. We moved to Atlanta. I was 15, and I thrived there. Started my career.
It was almost as if, and I know you basically raised yourself, in a sense.
In a sense, yeah. In a sense, in that I was an oddball and I was an observer, and I know that you know I'm a seeker. So I read books, and I wanted, since I wasn't having that conversation with other people who wanted to break the fourth wall, the proverbial fourth wall, I had to learn on my own, and that was through music and movies and colors and art and books. So in that respect, I did. But I had mentors. You know, my brother-in-law was married to my sister when we moved to Atlanta. He was a mentor of mine, and I learned so much about how to conduct and express myself from him.
And at this point, the older sister had a new man named George, and they had moved to Atlanta, got a house in Atlanta, and George was transporting vehicles, and that's how they made their money. So Rue's mom was like, yeah, you're gonna have to go live with your sister. I'm not about to do this. Which in my opinion is freaking crazy, because girl, you had that child and you're about to go send your child to your other child house who was like barely older. Oh my God, okay. So now that Rue is in Atlanta living with his sister, he gets a job with George, transporting the cars. Rue said he knew how to drive from like a very young age, and was a very good driver at that. And he and George had a good relationship, very kiki, boys will be boys ass relationship. And yeah, Rue would transport the cars across the country, all the way from Cali, and visit. He would visit family members. He always had a good relationship with his mom, even though she kicked him out. So if he did drive to California, he would stop by, say hello. She'll give him a little attitude, a little cold shoulder, but he'll still like, and then, you know, she'll give in. But yeah, at this point, he was making trips to New York City to deliver cars. So he was seeing the city and like, you know, just seeing like how different everything is, and just how easy it would be for him to pick up certain gigs in different places by doing this work, right? while he's in Atlanta with the money that he's making from transporting with George, he did end up getting like a little shitty apartment and ended up finding his tribe, as he calls it, in Atlanta.
So ugly. You had to catch me out, didn't you?
How are your feelings here in your debut of your band?
I'm really nervous, but that's what I mean. I'm nervous on all of them, though, you know. And it's worked so far, I think, you know. And this all wouldn't be possible if it weren't for the American Music Show, who schooled us on how to break in the show. His name was Dick Richards, who founded it. We had to do, DR because we love her. She's our inspiration.
Wasn't the third, isn't that the night she's here?
No, she's here the 6th, the following Sunday. But we're here, we do a tribute to her in that show on the 3rd of March, which is like on a Thursday.
I had no clue Rue was in Atlanta before this, and that's how you know I'm young, because apparently this is like when he really started his underground shit with his bands, being in underground films like Star Booty, like just really being an artsy bitch, like just being that girl in the Atlanta scene who you just like could not escape. And they could afford to be out doing drugs all damn night because all they had to do is wake up and go transport a car, and then they could make a whole bunch of money, pay rent. They did say they didn't live in luxury in that apartment, and they did have roommates and stuff, and they all did drugs. But he said it was not hard drugs. They would just smoke a little something, something, snort a little something, something, because back then apparently that wasn't hard, but okay. And trip, do a little, so one day when he's living in Atlanta, he does some tabs, and he meets this guy and this girl on a bench who he thinks are very attractive. Rue ended up liking the guy, and they were like, hey, do you want to come back to our place? And Rue was like, sure, but just know I'm tripping right now. And they're like, that's awesome, it's a vibe. The guy's name is Mark, I believe he named him. I don't know, because I don't even remember the new boyfriend's name. No, someone said, bitch, you think you Jane Fonda? What is that man's name? Oh, Georges. I remember. Georges with an S. Okay, we're here. Mark was the first boyfriend. He and Mark's relationship was very interesting, and I like how he described it. You could tell that Rue's been to at least some sort of therapy since writing his first book, because if you don't know, Rue had a memoir that he wrote like in the 90s, and in my opinion was just not that, it was kind of too cheeky. Like, it wasn't really dissecting what the fuck was going on. And when Rue wrote that, he was very much grown, like at least 30 years old, so 30 plus, so like there wasn't a lot of dissection there. And then there was even some slurs in the book, like it just so it was reassuring to see that he was actually being introspective and realized the reason he and Mark did not get along was not only drugs, but differences in love languages and how we tend to replay our parents and our relationships, especially in our late teens, early 20s, because that's all we know. That is the only example that we have. So what was Rue doing to Mark? Rue was constantly shooking and jiving and putting on a fucking show, showing all them damn teeth, trying to make Mark happy. Mark was always fucking depressed because his mama was fucking depressed and did the same thing that Rue's mom did. Close him off. Oh, I don't want to talk to you, but maybe I might crack a smile. And if I crack a smile, then I guess you win. All is good. Like, that's the constant thing that they were doing. And it just wasn't working, to the point where they got into an argument and Mark put his hands on Rue. And Rue said he heard his mother's voice in his head say, if a man puts his hands on you once, he will do it again. And he did not speak to Mark for a little while. Sorry, y'all. I forgot to tell you guys this freaking disturbing part, because I know you guys are probably like, oh, so if he was in a relationship with Mark and he was living on his own, like, weren't they intimate? Yes, he and Mark were intimate. However, before he and Mark were intimate, because he had been living in Miami for a minute before he met Mark. He was living with his sister for a little bit, stacked up, then got some friends, got into the art scene. Then, right? So when he turned 18, that fucking counselor actually showed his ass up and they hooked up. And that was his first. And Rue don't see, I know I was just praising him for therapy, but Rue don't see nothing wrong with that. And we're going to get into probably why he doesn't. But he doesn't see nothing wrong with that age gap and like how that was done, how that is predatory within itself. He basically pulled an Adam 22. Like, oh, I just left the girl alone and then I waited for them to come of age. Like, girl, bye. So yeah, that is very disturbing and a breach of trust for sure. This is another sad thing that happened in Rue's teen years, is when they were curious about hooking up and they didn't know if they wanted to wait till they were 18 for Professor Nasty. They went to like a gay red light district, and they were trying to smash this little boy. And he got so scared, he just ran out. It's crazy. After Rue and Mark, you know, we're on and off again. During this time, Rue was in a few bands, and I did not know this. Rue was very passionate about music from the beginning. I always assumed that it was like a gimmicky thing for him. No, he's always been into music to the point where he is in rock bands. And it makes sense because the whole gender look looks very alternative. Like, he looked like an alt baddie. Like, I was like, okay. Like, this Rue.
Oh, yay. This is one of my favorite songs that we're gonna do. Lord have mercy. Give me that pizza. Good God. All right. Come on, girl. Are you ready for this?
He actually almost made it a few times. Like, I'm talking about a label done flew him out to the UK before. Like, he almost made it, got on a few times, okay? And I like that he included this portion to show, like, look, it's the ups and downs at this point, right? So speaking of the ups and downs, we need to speak about what tends to happen when you do kick a kid out at 15 and force them to be grown so fucking fast. Is now this person is was burnt out from being on survival mode. Even though apartments back then were 2 schmeckles, it's like all the drugs, all the sexuality stuff, they're not really like making it. They're always like right there, and it's just starting to get a little frustrating. George isn't really transporting whips like that, so he stopped going to New York less and less and started staying in Atlanta for a little bit, right?
This morning I was like, God, I'm gonna be in New York and I don't have a... No. No, I'm fine. I'm pretty... Oh, and here's one for you. Oh, thank you. Nelson, you don't get a lot of that costume.
Yeah, I actually declined seeing Strawberry before it was a 5.
That was so funny. But I like it once you can see the color.
What do you need? Or what?
The sewing machine. The sewing machine.
At Molly's?
Mm-hmm.
Rupaul is just intolerant. He doesn't want to go to the sharper image.
She does even stand. Oh, right. She does a public.
So around this time, he couldn't support himself anymore, so he did decide to go back to San Diego with his mother in his late 20s. And he felt like a failure. For one, before he went there, he was in Atlanta for a little bit, and he said he felt like a failure because he's just that grown-ass uncle. He was in his 20s, but late 20s, like 20s, like my age. And I get it, because I would not want to be on my little brother's couch with his kids running around. I would feel like a fucking loser. So I get it. Like, if I have nothing going for myself, I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow. And he said what he would do is he would bum on the couch all fucking day. And then when he knew his sister was about to come home from work, he would leave so that she wouldn't be annoyed with seeing him in the same spot. Like, so after a while, he's like, look, I can't keep burdening you. I'm about to go back to my mama house. So when he's in San Diego, he's doing the same thing, depressed, bumming it with his mama.
Could you send him somewhere else? His father be aggravated here. His mother, she don't take time long enough to be around to be aggravated.
Yeah, she's smart.
Why you got the stuff still on through? You got that focus on me?
No.
Turn that shit off.
Unfortunately, around this time, he did find out that his mother had cancer. This is when he kind of had to accept that there was going to be a time very shortly that she was not going to be there anymore. He just wanted to make sure that he was spending time with her when he could, because obviously the end was coming.
I just want to get something for prosperity, Ma.
I got your price and your ass too. Go to cut that shit off. Scott, Rue,
If y'all want a good little cackle, when he went to San Diego to live with his mom or whatever, and he saw his younger sister, who is now grown. And the younger sister was like, yeah, I'm dating this guy. This is him. And she brings the guy home. And Rue looks at this dude like, because there's this park in their town where gay men meet up and hook up. And Rue met up with that man and hooked up with him before. So when the dude left, he pulled his sister aside and was like, girl, I went out with him. She's like, no, he's not gay. He's like, girl, what you want me to do? Tell you what his looks like? And she broke up with him. But it's just like, that is crazy. Like, what is up with these men trying to sleep with Rue's sister? Like, ew, leave them alone. And there was another instance when he was living with his mom in San Diego in the broke boy period, when his daddy heard he was in town and that he was going to that damn park to go be grown. And his dad gonna call him up talking about some, oh, I heard you was gay. I just want to make sure. I heard somebody at my job said they saw you being gay in that park. And Rue was like, I haven't heard from you since I was a little 7-year-old boy sitting on the porch. I am 28, 29 years old, and you calling me, asking me if I'm fucking gay? Bitch, I felt him in that moment. I was like, yes, read that man the fuck down, because what? So when he's in San Diego, he sees Crystal LaBeija on TV. Crystal LaBeija, the Crystal LaBeija, okay? And yes, he danced a little bit in New York or whatever, and right, to get some extra money and stuff, did some gender bending stuff, but this was ballroom, baby. Like, this is different. So he's just like, oh my God, New York is stepping, bitch. Like, what am I doing? Then you had certain friends from New York calling like, hey, I think this is your scene now. You need to come back up here. Like, it's changing. You need to come back. Rue was like, fuck it. I'm about to do one more shot. We're about to try this. One more shot. Let's do it. I'm going to switch up my look. I'm going to go out there and do the whole glam, bimbo. I'm going to switch up my look. Instead of doing the whole scary thing, I'm going to do the sexy thing. And Rue did say they always struggled with, wanted their queerness, everything like that. And when they put on that getup, when they put this 613 on for the first time, bitch, they were turning heads. Rue is a tall bitch, so they just look like an Amazonian goddess, okay? And they realized the attention was completely different.
Hey. Oh, honey. If anybody can make a fool out of themselves, it is me. My hair is a mess. I've let these men touch all over me for the money. I'm trying to pay my rent. I'm trying to get a new apartment. And I let all these men touch me just because I wanted the money. Isn't that terrible? What else is there? What am I going to do? I'm in show business, you know?
You gotta live, bro.
I gotta live, boy. I've had a great time. Atlanta's been really good to me and stuff. And I feel like I want to go further. I want to take my Rupaul message to the world.
So now this is Rue's last chance. And he packs his bags up. He kisses his mom on the cheek. And who does he see in town? Lamar. So he sees Lamar in town, and he just says straight up to Lamar, like, look, I don't know what you've been doing with your life, but do you want to run away with me? That man said, do you want to run away with me? Like, ah! Oh my God, it's so cringy. Ah. And Lamar was like, yeah. And then when the time came, he did not show up to the bus stop. He did not show up to the bus stop, and Rue was waiting at that bus all by himself, and he got on that Greyhound bus by himself.
You know, it hurts me because my brother trusted these people so much.
The boys were great. Stuff, all this. So now, what do you think you should do? Oh, if you sit on the toilet, you can see yourself in the other mirror. Can you see me over there? Oh, I can see there. Is it? It's down. Oh, I'm getting scared. You guys don't do that. You guys.
As soon as Rue got back into New York, he was welcomed with open arms. Like, tons of people in the underground scene wanted to work with this new and improved, easily marketable Rue. Like, let's keep it a buck. Way more easy to market. During this era, like right before it took off, because he's still in New York, still trying to make a name for himself. He auditions to be in the Love Shock music video, and this catapults his image everywhere. You have this pretty in the face, 5'5" blonde beauty, right? Who is a biological male. Like, that just blew everyone's fucking brains. And everybody loved that one scene of him doing the Soul Train line in the Love Shack video. So this is what really started boosting. Simultaneously, Ru is running and dominating the New York scene. The nightlife, that is. He's in all the clubs, everywhere. Ru was officially a club kid. And if you know anything about the club kids, you know everything about Michael Alec. So
the Limelight was one of New York City's most infamous clubs. Limelight was also home to the Club Kids. These were an influential group of people that dressed up in elaborate costumes and partied the night away.
By 1996, Limelight's appeal began to crumble when club kid Angel Melendez was killed by the ringleader of the group, party promoter Michael Alec, and his roommate Robert Riggs, also known as Freeze.
In Alec's apartment, they took the body, put it in the bathtub, filled it with Drano, ice, baking soda. Days later, they cut up the body, put it in a box, and dumped it in a river.
In March 1996, Angel Melendez went missing.
April 10th, 1996, I ran a piece about how Michael had called me saying he was fired. He sounded like a mess. He said, my apartment is padlocked, I'm homeless, and he really sounded out of it. And then I asked around and said, is this what's really happening? And somebody said, yeah, but people also think that he and Freeze killed Angel. I put obviously mention of a missing person and wondering what Michael knew and what he did. The buzz kept mounting, and 2 weeks after that, I did my famous blind item called Night Clubbing, which addressed a fight over drug money involving a hammer, finishing off, pillow, ultimately cutting up the body and throwing it in the river. Michael once came up to me on the street before his conviction and was promoting some party, and I was like, ew. And he's like, you don't think I killed Angel, do you? And it was said in a very eerie, taunting way. And I thought, yeah, I do think you did.
I was every single day, I was on and he was one of those copycats that we hate, and so we killed him. I killed Angel, and that's the kind of thing that gets me in trouble.
You're gonna spill it. Jane, go away, Michael, go away. Look what you just did. I didn't just do anything, please. Here's your goddamn cake.
Everybody was buzzing. He told a lot of people. Some people thought he was joking, some people thought it was a stunt. You never was sure from his tone, but he wanted the word out there. He almost was wearing it as a badge of honor.
I was not aware that Michael Alec actually died 4 years ago from, you guessed it, an overdose. Because he was an addict. Ru historically has always denied their affiliation with Michael, has always denied their closeness or the fact they brushed shoulders with Michael, but Ru was documented so heavily during this phase because they were in the art scene. They had friends who, I think he was friends with the first ever fucking vlogger ever. So everything was documented. Michael was being documented. Everyone was infatuated with him. And Ru was a sore fucking... like, you could not see Ru. Like, Ru was always there. And for a long time, Ru denied knowing them. Then, when it came to this book, they said that they just worked for him and they barely brushed shoulders and, like, I just worked for him. So, basically, you push drugs. And what killed Angel was like... Some people feel like Ru should be held accountable for involvement. I don't know if it went that far, but to just completely disregard it and be like, oh, I don't know him, sketchy.
Should be around. And because of that, the club kids reported on the night scene. Often they get into the clubs for free. And their ringleader is 21-year-old Michael Alec, the son of an advertising executive who came to New York to go to college and dropped out when he enrolled in the club, University of the Night.
So I knew I loved to go to clubs so much, but I would never live without it, so I had no choice but to make it a living.
Capitalizing on clubgoers' taste for sideshows is the
You don't die when you're 30, but there were a lot of people who were hippies, who lived on conyers and had long hair, and did that for a few years, and then realized, well, this isn't the life. I find it hard to think that you'd be not having fun when you're 90 or whatever. You should have fun all your life. And then you die. Expressing ourselves instead of living fantasy. There should be a time limit on how long we can have fun for like 21 years. You know, we live in a very volatile world. We're at war, and this is a release. This is one of many ways to release.
Dropped out of society when Reagan got in office. And I've been underground ever since. Father Home Touch Your TV said, because this is the most important show you'll ever watch.
On anything in this world, you have to give something, pull something out of yourself, give it back. You get more, the more you give, the more you get.
I love it, it's delicious.
It's got LSD in it.
That'll be nice. This is gonna be... I'm actually surprised you're not gonna be there if you can't. Well, I can't because it's like, you know, they perform so often.
It's still not too late. I hope not. I would have to wear my underwear.
To make it worse, in the book, Ru makes himself the victim. Rue says when he was working with Michael, he didn't really like him. It was his roommate's friend for real, and they didn't really like him. I'm looking at pictures of them with their faces squeezed together, but I digress. And that on one occasion, Michael spit in Rue's mouth. And I'm like, oh, bitch, fuck no. Like, what? Just disgusting. If somebody spit in my mouth, everyone's gonna hear about it. That's disgusting. Everyone's gonna fucking hear about it. Like, as soon as Michael Alec got released, some people were like a kikiing, like, oh, you need to have Michael as a judge on Drag Race. Fuck no. Like, the fact that people even could say that lets everyone know that you don't address it. And it's a serious, that was a murder. Someone got murdered and chopped up and thrown in the fucking Hudson. Like, that's dark as fuck. And they were eating ramen noodles around this man's body. Like, okay, he spit in your mouth, but he killed somebody.
You know, it hurts me because my brother trusted these people so much. He trusted them so much.
Angel's family came from Colombia to New York when he was 8. He found a home in the club singing. Yes, he was dealing drugs. He wasn't a bad person.
I don't know, Rue. That was just not the time to try to victimize yourself. And then Rue even said that they became the club kid of New York, the club queen of New York, because they had outdone Michael after all of that stuff happened. And they were still able to sell out shows and keep stuff popping despite the tragedy. He even said one of his friends passed away. In the book, one of his friends who he was planning an event with ended up dying the night before, and they still went the fuck out and partied. Bruh, Rue, all you had to do is at least admit, like, drugs are fucking bad, and, like, that had a big influence on why you did those things, because you were 29, 30 years old during this time. You know, Rue did spend a lot of his 20s kind of, like, putting his feet in the water and experimenting for real. Whereas towards the end of his 20s, he was about to shoot on out. But yes, he loves to minimize his interactions with Michael Alec. I'm going to do some more research to see if they had any interactions after he was released. But all the things that I've been able to see and what he's wrote in this book is that he was not really close with him like that. He worked for him, i.e. was a middleman for something or was a promoter, probably handed out flyers. And he spit in his mouth, which is disgusting.
Did some more research, and unfortunately I caught Rue in some lies. So if you go online and you look up Rupaul and Michael Alec, it is scrubbed. Like, all you can really see is a Reddit thread of former club kids and Drag Race fans talking about it's just a lot of speculation going on because, again, Rue does not talk about it. And I went back to the book. He only talks about Michael Alec on 2 pages in that whole book, right? The one page is talking about the spitting in the mouth, and the other page is talking about how his mutuals, as to why he was even talking to Michael, stopped messing with Michael, and now it's a completely different wave and they're taking over Michael Alec's history. But in reality, I did a little bit more research. It seems like Michael and Rue were a little bit more chummy than he wants to admit. He makes it seem like it was a one and done meet and greet. It was not. They hung out multiple times. Michael actually raised the money with his Club Kid events to send Rue to New York City. Like a fundraiser. Look, his name's all over the flyer. This is a real fundraiser, or a real flyer, excuse me, for a real fundraising event that Michael Alec threw for Rue. They also had the mutual of Lady Bunny and all of that stuff. Like, all of these people were involved. It's just, this was a very dark time because of what Michael did. And because a lot of the people in this circle were on drugs, they were not the nicest of people. Rue even admits when he first met Michael, allegedly first met, this could just have been an instance they hung out. When they were in the cab stopped and Michael ran out the cab, leaving everyone with the bill. And it was kind of like whoever's stuck in the cab has to pay for it last. And Rue was like, that's when I knew I couldn't trust him. But because of the drugs, because of the fame, you're finally popping. You were like, F it, I'm about to tolerate this. Like, I just wish he could have been a little bit more real about this time period, especially now that Michael has passed. Say what you got to say. But leaving it up to speculation, I feel like a lot of us are coming to the conclusion of you may have known a little bit more than you feel comfortable with. And there may be some like trauma that I don't know. What do y'all think?
Once upon a time, there was a little black girl.
So I know we mentioned Love Shack being RuPaul's introduction to TV and media of that sort on the mainstream level, but they did not stop. They actually had multiple TV gigs, even some TV gigs in the UK, to be broadcasted live on television. They were just like the public just loved this gimmick, this glamazon gimmick, as Ru liked to say. And his personality just shined through. So he was on tons and tons of TV networks.
So after he was seen on Love Shack and that he's been seen lip syncing all around New York, they were like, it's only right that you actually get in the fucking booth. You've been trying to get on famous from music for some time now. So why not? You know, you're familiar with the studio, you're familiar with your voice and your sound. Let's do it. So instead of being in a band, Ru actually went solo and went full pop. Again, I had no idea that song. I did not know that that was made in the fucking 90s. Like, I thought that was made for the RuPaul show. Bitch, he made that back then. He made a fucking bop. Like, what are you talking about?
$1 million every year. And everybody is drag queen. I mean, you're born naked and the rest is drag. In fact, every pop star that I know, Madonna, Garth Brooks, Flavor Flav, everybody is in drag. And you're born naked and the rest is drag. And you put on this persona. And actually, there's a way, like I'm doing it, you work it to your advantage.
Do I call you he or she?
Oh, sister girl, you can call me anything you want to. Philosophy is one thing. You better shop. Come on, girl. Really good. Like, up against here like this. How do I look? Who's next? What's your name? Lugo. Yo, Lugo. You can be the other leg.
All right,
great.
You've tried every diet that's out there. Now try the one that really works. I know you must look at me and say, gee, heaven must be missing an angel. And it is. Hair heels and attitude, I am through the roof. Hello.
He put on a dress. Then she made history. RuPaul was the first drag queen to hit the big time.
RuPaul is on stage right now. That's at the MTV Video Music Awards live. So let's just listen to what he or she has to say.
I'm tall enough to give you a shack attack. It's great. It's wonderful, isn't it?
Yes.
I love it. I love it.
Of course, immediately, Supermodel, bop. It was a bop. It skyrocketed RuPaul, the entity. And I feel like music is so digestible by so many different sexualities, races, fashion. Like, it doesn't matter. Everybody can enjoy music. So that, in my opinion, was the major bridgeway to make RuPaul digestible for America. Not to also add that they have platinum blonde hair, bright tan skin, and blue contacts, and titties pushed up all the way to their fucking neck. But yeah, it was way more palatable for America to accept Ru, the superstar singing drag queen that told you to strike a pose and be fierce, because that was a comfortable spot for them. What was not comfortable for them was this head shaven, angry looking kid with freckles. Like, that just wasn't working for them. Ru was so gorgeous and so talented and so prominent in the fashion world that this is when Ru was officially made a model. Ru was doing the damn thing and looking good next to them. And again, America felt comfortable, so Ru also had like a little talk show where it's kind of like Ask a Drag Queen type of thing way before its time.
Welcome back. You've seen her movies, haven't you?
Have I seen Pam Grier movies? I am Pam Grier.
If it were a woman's world, how do you think it would be different?
Truthfully, I think it would be a lot nicer in one sense.
For 2 bonus points, can you sing a few bars?
And I moved to LA on my own and became a manicurist and supported myself.
You were a manicurist?
Yeah. For 5.5 years, sweetie. I can turn your nails out, and baby, you need one.
You know what?
And you know, if you continue to believe in yourself, and also your words are so important. You keep saying, I will survive, I'll get over.
All right, the Backstreet Boys! I
I think you guys are fantastic.
Rue is one of those people who have always had good ideas and just needed somebody to give them the fucking platform for real.
Everybody is in drag. You're born naked and the rest is drag.
Everything was finally going up for Rue. He was no longer living in his mom's house. He had an apartment in New York City. Like, he was living, he was booked and busy, he was on flights, like, things were good. It was like, you know, even if you're not famous or whatever, usually when you get into your 30s, things just finally start to settle. Like, it just finally starts to feel like, okay, I got the gist of what's going on now, you know? And Rue had that with the plus of the luxury. So boom, now he's talking to this guy named Georges. Georges is very young. I don't really remember where in the book how he said that they met.
The Limelight was one of New York City's most infamous clubs and attracted all sorts of people from all around the world. Limelight was also home to the Club Kids. These were an influential group of people that dressed up in elaborate costumes and partied the night away.
Wait a damn minute. Wait a damn.
They just got along, good conversation, like good friends immediately. Georges is younger. He's 21 years old. I mean, he's going to FIT, don't get me wrong. Like, he has some type of backing going on. I think he was from Spain or something. Like, I don't know. He was just in the NYC scene, and that's how they met. But there was a significant age gap. And one of the first dates that Rue took him on, Rue took the man on like a plane, and they went overseas and like were on like a boat. Like, it was way too much for, in my opinion, a 20-something-year-old to be seeing off rip. And of course, just like anybody would at 21, just said straight up to Rue, like, we should just go out. We should just, he said, we should just go out. I mean, what's the harm in us going out? And Rue was like, baby, I'm 31 years old. This is not gonna work. We could be best friends. Like, we could be really close friends, but I don't see us hooking up. And Georges was like, that's fine with me. As long as I could keep being around you, I'm good. Like, just straight up. And it's interesting because in the book, Rue describes this period of his life as, it's nice that somebody is chasing after me for once. Like, that's what he said, because he's like, nobody don't ever, you know, chase after me. It's always me wanting them, and I can't have them, and they go fuck my sister. He admittedly did like the fact that Georges was attracted to him, his money, his lifestyle. And Georges at this point was sober. I think Rue was California sober at this time, because the whole Club Kids scenario did traumatize him. I'm not even going to say that that did not traumatize him or minimize that because he was so close. But because of that trauma, he was California sober. He was smoking. He didn't even feel comfortable smoking weed in front of Georges, because he's like, you're like a little baby. Like, I don't want to influence you, basically. You are too easily, you're at a really ripe era. So Rue is admitting, like, this person is young. Like, I don't got no business philandering. One thing led to another. They hooking up. Rue. They're hooking up. And Rue was like, you know what? Fuck it. It feels good to be wanted. Let's do this. Child. You know how this ends, right? So Rue ends up getting a little Miami house, and he's like, okay, Georges, you stay in this house and you build the house, and I'm gonna go run the fucking world. Rue leaves Georges in the mansion, and Georges starts doing meth with the fucking landscapers. You cannot make this up. Georges starts doing meth with the motherfuckers that's supposed to be putting tile in the ceiling and shit. Rue comes back. Rue thought he was cheating. Rue thought Georges was down there cheating. He's like, I mean, shit, he's 21 and young. He's gonna want to hop on stuff. I get it. My sex drive isn't normal. Whatever. Normal, right? No, he pulls up. Georges is drugged out of his mind. He's in meth-induced psychosis. He is tripping. Rue was like, we need to get you in a treatment. We got to get you in a treatment. We got to get you in a treatment. We have to break up, and I'm going to get you in a treatment. You have ruined my home. I'm, like, so fucked. It was crazy. He had no business fucking that boy. And I feel like it's because of that counselor. What that counselor did with him kind of fucked him up a little bit. Because you had no business being with Mr. Georges, right? So they both go to treatment. He checks himself into treatment too. Because he's like, bruh, fuck it. Like, at this point, something's up because there's this empty feeling and I need to know I need to be directed. I need guidance, basically. He and Georges decide to not stay together in the book, but I realized that in real life, things are different. So the book ends. Let's get into how the book ends, because that's how he ends his relationship with Georges in the book, that they are separated. He's in recovery and had to go to a different state, and Rue is doing his own recovery. That's how Rue ended it in the book, but we're going to get into how it really ended. Okay, so now we're going to get into the title of the book and why it's called House of Hidden Meanings, because we don't get to... we don't even get to really know what the fuck that's about until the last chapter of the book. And the House of Hidden Meanings is basically a play on words for, you know how your body is a temple and you should keep your home clean? Little things in your development do matter. Like what I said earlier, the reason why he wants to be wanted so bad by these men is because his dad didn't want him. Like, these are things that Rue is saying straight up in the book. His daddy didn't want him, so he goes after men that don't really want him. His mama was absent emotionally, so sometimes he goes for men that could be a little emotionally absent. His daddy, you know, the substances stuff, sometimes you'll get into partnerships with people who do substances. It was really him doing a reflection on, like, certain therapy tips and things that you learn along the way, like your inner child, making sure you do stuff for them. Like Rue always goes in his head and imagines that he is in his mother's living room dancing, because when his mother did pass, that was hard for him. He did show her a lot of his accomplishments, like of him on MTV and different things like that, and she was very pleased and just always talked about that psychic, you know.
Right before her passing, we got to see a news report on MTV talking about my new album and what was about to happen to me. She looked at me and said, "You are crazy."
She comes through and she acknowledges that you miss that. Because it's like, I miss being able to just go to mom and just be her son, you know? She's acknowledging that obviously since her passing, she's seen your achievements. When she passed, she knew you were a star, and I want you to know that. But she's saying, you're my special, like you're my baby boy. And the feeling is like that's always going to be the case.
She'd gone to see a psychic before I was born. Right. And the psychic said, "It's a boy, and he's going to be famous." Wow. So everything you're saying is right on.
When she comes through, the feeling is that basically she was strong, but you can be strong in a different way. Your strength can be in communicating. Your strength can be in being true to your feelings and being open and honest about your feelings as a learning tool to help others. And there's an emphasis basically from her end of you being proud about being forthcoming with your feelings. She acknowledges writing a book, and she's having me acknowledge this book that I absolutely 100% know you're going to write without a shadow of a doubt.
I'm preparing it right now, actually.
I love it, so congrats. The acknowledgement is that there's pride for you that you have not allowed certain issues to just shut you off completely.
One of my earlier memories was her telling me, my mother would say, "Rue, you're too goddamn sensitive." But looking back at that, it was her way of warning me to not fall into the same trap of emotions that she did.
Last chapter is really about him and his recovery and how he just does not do certain drugs anymore. He doesn't even smoke anymore because his therapist was like, "You're just not here in the session when you're smoking weed. You're only 60% here." That's how he ended the book. Was just like, "Yep, I'm sober now. Everything's cool. I'm not looking for my dad and men anymore." And yeah. And I'm like, that's it, Rue? That's it? Let's talk about what I wish Rue would have said in this book. Let's get into that. Because what?
You are crazy.
For one, the Michael Alig. Obviously, you needed to talk more about Michael Alig. You needed to actually spill the tea on what you knew about Michael Alig and like your experience working around him. Not just, "Oh, I work for him and he spit in my mouth. I'm a victim." No, I want to hear like, we hung out this one time and this happened. And then we were out this one night and that happened. And I should have known because this one time this happened. Because a lot of people on like Reddit and shit that were hanging around y'all at that time have stories about how those people that you were hanging with were very loud, very gaudy. Like you said, you were like, "Bro, why do you want to hang out with them?" Very annoying. I'm talking people that were of age in the 90s on Reddit are saying how Rue and his crew acts pretty similar to Michael. So I would like to know more about that. I would like to know about how you and how you and Georges got back together. Because don't they say like when you're in addiction that you really shouldn't go back to be in those type of relationships? I mean, I digress. Maybe y'all were at a spot where y'all could come together. But how did that happen?
Yes, I married Satan.
No, you're a boyfriend of 23 years.
Yes, yes.
Why was right now the time to get married?
In light of what's happening currently in the world today, what's happening in Washington, we thought, you know what? Let's do it. Let's just do it because there's too much at stake with our businesses, and
Yeah.
So that's why we did it.
Has life changed at all with that piece of paper?
No. This is the thing. That paper don't mean nothing. That paper don't mean nothing. If you're devoted to a person, nothing's going to change that. And after 23 years, hey, you know what? I know him. He knows me. I love him. He's my favorite person on the planet I've met. I've met a lot of people.
Then they got married, right? They end up getting married in real life, Rue and George's. Girl, duh, real life. But they're in an open marriage. And Rue is on some, I understand that Georges is young and he has an appetite.
Why did you two decide on an open marriage?
We didn't decide. That's what, the hoax is that monogamy is actually something that can actually happen. I wouldn't want to put restraints on the person I love the most on this planet. I wouldn't do that to someone I love, my very best friend. Listen, if you get something happening that you cannot resist and that it's going to make you happy, go for it. Go for it. Because the truth is, I know in my heart of hearts, like I've never known anything before, that man loves me more than anything else in this world.
What happened to not getting with people that want other people? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, we need to get into it, Rue. You over here redid this memoir and you kind of just repeated a lot of stuff from your first memoir minus all the T-slurs. Speaking of T-slurs, you didn't mention anything about your scandal with the transgender community.
Drag loses its sense of danger and its sense of irony once it's not men doing it, because at its core it's a social statement and a big FU to male-dominated culture. So for men to do it, it's really punk rock because it's a real rejection of masculinity. Going on to say, you can identify as a woman and say you're transitioning, but it changes once you start changing your body. It takes on a different thing. It changes the whole concept of what we're doing. So online, the backlash was pretty much immediate, but surprisingly, Rupaul doubled down on those remarks, tweeting out, "You can take performance-enhancing drugs and still be an athlete, just not in the Olympics." So a lot of people were commenting on this. Interestingly enough, there were a lot of past contestants that were commenting on this, some of whom have since come out or came out on the show in the case of Peppermint as trans. So Gia Gunn said, "Although I do feel the separation from being a drag queen and now a trans woman, there should not be any reason to be not accepted when it comes to the art of drag. If you are a fierce artist, you're a fierce artist and should be judged based on your art, not your gender identity." Jiggly Caliente said, "There's a revolution amongst the rebels. Pay attention. We refuse to stay marginalized and held down while you choose who to take up with you. #blend, #thought process." I love that. #trans power. And then tweeting at Peppermint, who was the subject of the interview when The Guardian brought it up, "Kudos to your song. It's timely and very relevant to our times. #trans revolution." Sasha Velour, who was the reigning queen of Drag Race from season 9, said, "My drag was born in a community full of trans women, trans men, and gender non-conforming folks doing drag. That's the real world of drag. Like it or not, I think it's fabulous and I will fight my entire life to protect and uplift it." Ben de la Creme said, "My partner of almost 3 years is trans," and Ben de la Christ, "Help anyone who tries to tell him what he can and can't do, just saying." And Peppermint, who again was brought up specifically in this interview by RuPaul, just tweeted a series of emojis not wanting to comment on it. Following this, RuPaul did issue an apology, saying in a number of tweets, "Each morning I pray to set aside everything I think I know so I may have an open mind and a new experience. I understand and regret the hurt I have caused. The trans community are heroes of our shared LGBTQ movement. You are my teachers." Following up with, "In the 10 years we've been casting Drag Race, the only thing we've ever screened for is charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent. That will never change."
You didn't mention anything about your political plight, your experiences with the Ku Klux Klan. I read around that you seen the Klan, girl. You ain't feel the need to put that in the book?
Speaking of RuPaul race relations, super mega trigger warning, like major trigger warning for what I'm about to show you. I wish that Ru could have went a little deeper in on the intersectionality between his specific, as he likes to call it, glamazonian, high femme drag, in relation to this like Confederate flag stuff, this blackface stuff, and like this African tribal, like, I don't know, like in the beginning I saw it as like a punk tribal type of thing, but now it's given caricature. Like, what the hell, Ru? Because Ru is not the only character or performer that we have seen who whitewashes themselves and gets on or puts on a blonde wig and does a more Caucasian gimmick and gets more popular. That's not the first time we've seen it. I don't know. I just wish he could have got a little bit deep into this, especially because he does have roots in a lot of activist movements. And there were a few queens that got upset about Rue trying to get political in the 2010s because of these Confederate get-ups, because of the blackface, because he is a black man, but it's still blackface. Like, like, I don't know. Speaking of Drag Race.
Nothing of RuPaul's Drag Race at all. We don't get any like, oh, this is how I got my pilot. Like, nothing from RuPaul's Drag Race. Oh, and nothing about the recent environmental drama that he's in, because he's allegedly in a deal with Big Oil, and he's allowing fracking on him and George's property. But meanwhile, you want to do like environmental challenges on Drag Race.
He's a rancher. He has a ranch in Wyoming, a very large ranch.
Is that where you guys live most of the time?
No. He works the ranch. I work Hollywood, and we meet up in fabulous places. He needs breaks from time to time because it's a very different life. So we plan little getaways once a month. New York or Maui or San Francisco or Vegas.
I don't know. There's a lot of things that I wanted to know that I just did not get out of that book, because I didn't know that he wrote another memoir before, and then I like skimmed it and I'm like, this is the same fucking thing, just added reflections, like little added reflections to information we already knew. I would have rathered you, sure, tell your story, but give us some new info and keep it current. Like, it's 2024, like, so much stuff has happened. And he has literally, like, when I tell you Rue has made an album like every 6 months since the 90s, bitch, like, you have done so much stuff. I don't know. I feel like, I don't know why, and I said the same thing about Wendy. I don't think these people realize that once you get to a certain age, bitch, just let it all out. Or wait until you die and release the book, because you're doing a disservice. You're not really giving us all the fucking tea. I wanted more tea. I still feel hungry, RuPaul. That is my final synopsis on The House of Hidden Meanings. Thank you so much, Rue, for sharing your story yet again and cleaning it up this time. Not so many, slurs and stuff like that. They did mention about how, because of them growing up in this queer gender bending era, that they are very specific on T women, T men, cisgender men, cisgender women, whatever. They did say that in the book, but I would have really liked for them to address like how they feel today after what happened with the controversy and everything, because that happened some time ago. At least 10 years ago, I think. You could have talked about that in the fucking book. You haven't reflected about that yet, Rue? Anyway, I digress, y'all. Let me go. Let me know if y'all liked my review, and let me know who you think I should do next time. And before you make a request, make sure the books are available, because sometimes these people will pull their shit off the shelves. Like Lil' Kim, I've been trying to find her book for the longest. But yeah, that is pretty much it. Thank you guys so much. Make sure you give a thumbs up on the way out, and I will see you later. Peace.